Welcome to the VokeMe YouTube channel.
The Nothing Phone. 3A series takes the essence of the Phone 2A and improves on it in meaningful ways. The core formula remains the same, but Nothing has polished off the rough edges to deliver a device that feels like a step forward rather than an incremental refresh. With an improved camera, better materials, and subtle design tweaks, the Phone 3A stands out in a market that often feels repetitive. The biggest upgrades? The optical zoom of the camera system, a more integrated AI experience at the hardware and software levels, and a new essential key on the right side to make interactions more efficient. Nothing. Phone 3A quick review. The Nothing Phone 3A turns out to be as solid a device as its impressive spec sheet would have you believe. For $379, you get a long-lasting phone with a unique design and a stunning display. The camera consistently takes high-quality photos, and you can even zoom in on subjects with the dedicated telephoto lens, something that many competing devices don't. There are some minor things to point out. The Essential Space feature is promising, but it needs a bit more polish before it can become an essential part of your digital life. It would have been nice to see a performance boost over the Nothing Phone 2A, and there's no ignoring the fact that buying the Nothing Phone 3A in the US is a bit more complicated than buying a device from a traditional phone manufacturer anyway. Well, overall, the Phone 3A is a well-rounded mid-range option that sticks to Nothing's signature design philosophy. It doesn't break any new ground, but it smooths out the rough edges of the Phone 2A, making it a more refined iteration than a game changer. Phone 3A design and build quality. The Phone 3A retains the design language of its predecessor, but improves on it in ways that make a difference. The most noticeable change is the horizontal camera layout, which now has 3 cameras instead of 2. The materials have also been upgraded. The back panel is now made of glass instead of polycarbonate, giving the phone a more premium feel in your hand. These changes, combined with the improved IP64 rating, mean the device is more resistant to dust and water splashes, an upgrade over the IP54 rating of the Phone 2A. The Nothing's transparent aesthetic remains intact. The frame looks solid, but it's likely still plastic rather than aluminum. The matte finish is fingerprint resistant and provides a nice grip, but there are no antenna lines, so there's no major material change from the previous model. The button layout remains the same. The volume rocker is on the left, while the power button and essential buttons are on the right. So if you're familiar with the Nothing's layout, there's nothing new to adjust to. On the front, the display remains flat, covered in Panda glass, with a pre-applied plastic screen protector. At 201 grams, the phone weighs about 10 grams more than the Phone 2A. Nothing Phone 3A. Display. The Nothing Phone 3A sticks with the same full-screen display as its predecessor, but there are some welcome improvements. The 6.77-inch flexible AMOLED panel is slightly larger, but the difference is barely noticeable in everyday use. The resolution, 1080 by 2392, 387 pixels per inch, is still sharp enough, and the 1,000,000:1 contrast ratio ensures deep blacks and vibrant colors. One of the most significant changes is the brightness. There's no claim of a maximum brightness of 3,000 nits, with 1,300 nits outdoors and 800 nits typical. In real-world use, the screen is much easier to use in direct sunlight than the Phone 2A, which struggled in bright conditions. The increase in brightness is noticeable, but as with most phones, it doesn't always reach that maximum in real-world use. It's an improvement, but it's not a game changer. The refresh rate remains at 120 Hz, and while Nothing calls it adaptive, it lacks LTPO technology, so it doesn't scale dynamically like more premium devices. The display supports HDR, 10 plus and 10-bit color 1.07 billion colors, which is great for media consumption, but the lack of Dolby Vision is still a limitation. Nothing. Phone 3A camera. The Nothing Phone 3A features a triple camera setup on the back, adding a telephoto camera to its arsenal compared to last year's model. There's a 50-megapixel main camera with a 1 by 1.57-inch sensor, and the new 2x telephoto lens also gets the 50-megapixel treatment, but the sensor size is quite small. The only letdown is the ultra-wide lens, which has a tiny 8 megapixel resolution and no autofocus. This is a very versatile set of lenses, especially considering the price point. Many other phones only offer a main camera and an ultra-wide camera. However, I wish the telephoto lens had a 3x lens like its pro siblings. 2x isn't that great of a range, and given the high resolution of the main sensor, a digital crop would suffice. The camera app lets you zoom in up to 30 times, but you shouldn't zoom that far. 10 times or less looks better, but shooting at the native focal length produces much better results. When viewing photos on the phone, I thought the image processing added too much contrast and sharpness. However, when I viewed the same photos on my computer, they looked much more natural and pleasing. I can't explain exactly why that happened, but the actual images look very good. As a budget phone, it can't compete with the camera-centric flagships, but for the average user, this lens gets the job done easily, especially during the day, but at night, motion blur and grain are more of an issue with the secondary lens, so you'll need a steadier hand. One of the unique features of the Nothing phones is the ability to use the glyphs as a fill light. I like this feature quite a bit, as it doesn't create as many shadows as using the flash, but the white color of the LED means it only works well in certain environments. As for video, it's pretty average. Only the main and telephoto lenses can shoot 4K at up to 30 frames per second. If you want 60 frames per second, the same lenses can shoot in 1080p, while the ultra-wide and selfie cameras can shoot at up to 1080p 30 frames per second. The footage looks decent enough, but if you're serious about shooting video content, this isn't the ideal tool for the job. Phone 3, a performance powering the Nothing phone. 3A is the Qualcomm Snapdragon 7S Gen 3, a 4nm chipset that strikes a balance between efficiency and performance. The 8-core setup is clocked at up to 2.5 GHz and backed up by a Qualcomm Hexagon NPU, so you can expect solid everyday performance, and for the most part, that's it. In everyday use, the Phone 3 AE handles everyday tasks with ease. Scrolling through social media, switching between messaging apps, and browsing the web all feel smooth. Multitasking isn't an issue either. I often had Chrome, WhatsApp, and a few other apps open at the same time, and never experienced any noticeable slowdowns. However, when it comes to gaming, the experience can be mixed. Casual games run without a hitch, but titles that demand more can have some limitations. Games like Metalstorm, RTSCE, and others that don't put too much demand on the GPU run flawlessly. In the 3D Mark Wildlife stress test, it scored 99.3%, which is better than most of the competition using the same chip. Temperatures rose from 26 to 38 degrees Celsius, which isn't all that high. The Nothing Phone 3 sticks to a stereo speaker setup, with the earpiece doubling as a second speaker alongside the bottom-firing speaker. That said, the overall audio quality is very good. Sound is clear, and the highs don't distort even at high volumes. Nothing 3 is software. The Phone 3A ships with Nothing OS 3.1 running Android 15 out of the box. The company has also promised 3 years of Android updates and 4 years of security patches. Nothing OS is still one of the cleanest Android skins around. It's fast, bloatware-free, and keeps the animation smooth. I didn't experience any lag or noticeable software bugs during my time using it, which is always a plus. The interface is intuitively designed, and stock Android fans will love what Nothing has done here. That said, the customization options are still a bit limited compared to other Android skins, so power users might feel limited. The Phone 3 series has a new app called Essential Space. This is a new AI-based app that helps users take notes and jot down ideas. The phone has a dedicated key on the right side, just below the power button, which, when combined with the Essential key on the Nothing Phone 3 series, allows for quick actions in the app. A single press sends content to Essential Space, a long press records a voice memo, and a double tap gives you direct access to your saved items. Currently, the glyph interface can be used primarily for notifications and alerts. Battery life of Nothing. Phone 3A, the Nothing Phone 3A, has a 5,000 mAh battery. This was once class-leading, but it's becoming increasingly common. There are plenty of mid-range phones that beat that number, like the Honor Magic 7 Lite and the Realme 14 Pro Plus, both of which boast 6,000 milliamp hour cells. I was able to get almost 2 days of use out of a single charge. So I wasn't expecting anything special in terms of lifespan, but I was pleasantly surprised. On average, I was able to get almost 2 days of use out of a single charge, with over 7 hours of screen on time according to the software. That's pretty good. Of course, battery life will vary depending on how you use the phone, and it will drain much faster if you play intensive games for long periods of time. When it comes time to charge, you won't have to wait long, as the Phone 3a supports wired, charging at up to 50 watts, which will take you from a flat battery to around 70% in just 30 minutes. There's no wireless charging support, which is understandable at this price point, and there's no charger in the box, so you'll need to factor in the cost of a decent charger if you don't already have one in your arsenal. Conclusion: the Nothing Phone 3A improves on its predecessor's formula rather than reinventing it. The addition of a telephoto lens, a brighter display, and subtle design improvements make it feel like a more refined device. Performance is solid for everyday use, but the Snapdragon 7S Gen 3 has its limits for demanding tasks. Battery life is solid, but there are no significant upgrades,